Closer.
Is it's my moment. Okay. When you were talking about mindfulness, my house that I lived in for 20 years, I had planted trees and butterfly garden and whatnot, and the tree that I planted in the front yard was a curly willow, and I didn't know that that's where butterflies laid their eggs. The yellow and black
They like
butterfly.
curly willows.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so, and I'd also had a branch I broke up, and anyway. So what I found was there was thousands and thousands and thousands of caterpillars at one time after they ate the tree, pretty much, would start to be on their way down to go across the grass to look for a place to build their cocoons. And I would watch this because that's how I learn all of my skills. I spend a lot of time just watching the patterns of nature and watching how things, just how they organically happen. And as they moved across the grass, then out of nowhere, thousands of birds came because they could hear them on the earth, and the caterpillars, very few got to the house. So even fewer made it up the walls around the eaves and made a cocoon. Maybe 4 or 5 out of all of those thousands. Wow. I would find the cocoons around the eaves of the house. Then when it came for them to hatch, there would be, well, let me back up a little bit. One day I was looking at the cocoons, and they were right in the front eave of my home. And there's a little area where it's like protected from the weather. So there was like 3 or 4 of them. And I noticed, and I used to clean all the time, I was always sweeping and whatnot. And I saw these little fuzzy things on the ground, and I picked it up, and it was this tiny little thing. And I looked up, and I realized it was the head of the caterpillar. So the last thing that was left after they completely built their transformation house was they had to lose their head. So transformation happens from here down, and we have to get out of this in order for this to expand and to change. So literally the head on the ground to me was transformation cannot happen. And I use this metaphor all the time because I watched it, and it makes, and I can imagine it probably couldn't be thinking about what's going to happen inside of there. Everything goes to goo, and then the beautiful thing is when when the cocoon would finally open, it seemed like months later, there was like blood on the wall, and it was really messy, and they'd be wet for I'd watch them on the windowsill, wet for hours and hours and hours. The vulnerability that when your wings are still wet and you can't fly, to trust and be there and be still and let them dry, and then all of a sudden, I'm ready to go, and whoosh, off they go. But what an ordeal, and I really see that.
Yes.
I really,
yes, it is. Transformation is an ordeal.
It is such an ordeal, and we literally have to die to a certain belief system, which is from the shoulders up. And even I've incorporated that as knowing, even when we're in our head a lot, I'll tell people, you can always know when you're not in your heart because your shoulders will be tense, your breathing will be shallow, and you're in your head. But if you drop out of your thoughts, mindlessness, right? Mindless, get off with the head and drop your shoulders, drop into your heart, drop into your breath, bring everything in. And that's the beautiful unfolding of being able to experience our heart in that way.
Transformation. And that's also part of the structural integration. It's about first embodying this body, because many people are not even embodied.
They don't want to be in the body.
It's starting with childbirth, because childbirth is such a dramatic experience. People live a whole life without even embodying this vessel that we receive in this lifetime. So, and that's part of structural integration. First is bringing this person into this body, working from their feet up. First earthing, grounding, and then connecting from the second session, going up to third, expanding your wings, expanding the branches of yourself after you ground yourself. Becoming that tree, because we're treelings. We receive light and we earth that light that we become, and then we plant the seed onto the earth. So now we reach out. That's reaching out. That's part 3 of the structural integration, becoming and reaching out. As I give, I receive. Then is 4th, coming again on the heart. But from then also we work on the abdomen. It's also connecting to this umbilical cord that we just became disconnected and we lost ourselves in the process. From there, then you move up to losing the head.
Losing the head.
Losing the head. Session 7, complete integration of losing this aspect of who you are and then tapping into the magnetic force of the heart. So that's also what we do at Matisse, a complete 10-session integration and transformation.
The butterfly.
The butterfly.
Yeah, and that's so important. A lot of those who've been light workers and been in the consciousness movement, they've gone into physical illness because they're not embodying. They've done all their work to send all their energy down into the center, and they reach way far out. I know from experience,
Yes.
they reach way out, but then to be able to come back down in all the way and meet the root and really be fully embodied is where spiritual duality gets us stuck in the head. And if we're too much in the third eye, we're not living from the
Being here
crown.
is difficult too when we want to be in that floaty space and the bliss and the you know.
Yeah.
Yes, we understand that.
We get it.
And then, you know, myself, I've had a lot of physical healing that I've had to overcome. I mean, there was a period of time for 4 years I hardly could walk. And I mean, and I've had, through this transformational process, multiple medications, like all these things, but knowing to use my mind in a healthy way so that I'm very, you know, mindless but mindful of what information comes in. Is it healthy? Is it going to feed my soul? Is it going to get me along the way? Is it going to prosper the energy that I need to do what I need to do? I spent, you know, a couple hours the other day just in the mountains, went hiking in the creek and took my shoes off and getting the ground and really intentionally pulling myself, keeping myself in the ground and grounded, because we do spend a lot of time in that ethereal grid. Yeah.
I think light workers forget that we're here to be an embodiment of spirit through the body.
Yeah.
And I think because we also bring trauma from past lives.
The human experience.
And the human experience, let alone the past lives. That are imprinted, right? Let alone that.
Let alone all those emotional views and
Yes, all the things that happen to us, we don't want to be in our bodies. It's like, how do you go back when you kind of get a little taste and a little glimpse of what heaven is, right? You go, okay, let's go back to there, where I'm confined. But the whole deal is that we came in with the purpose of embodying that spirit into the body, and the body is so much of a miracle that we don't even know half of the miracle of our body. So all of us, we get, you know, those illnesses because it's resistance. It's the resistance of and the fear of being in the body.
It's the resistance to who you are.
Yeah.
And
Or
why
think
you're
that
here.
you are because you're in this body.
Right.
You know, and forgetting, and I think that's what we forget. We forget that we made a contract to embody the fullness of spirit within our own soul and our essence and bringing it into the body. And then we have to really relive and heal whatever's preventing us from embodying the love and the essence that the reason why we incarnated.
Yeah.
Our body is just a uniform of humanity.
It's a uniform.
It's the uniform of humanity.
It's true.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I didn't go into the military, but in my college campus they had what they called ROTC,
Yes.
Reserve Officer Training, right? And I didn't find out until like almost first year was up, that I wasn't yet a citizen. I didn't have to do it. So I immediately quit. But it was so funny. It was so funny. You had to get a uniform, you know. It was the Air Force ROTC that I had to go to. And went to get a uniform that fits me, and my body never
quite fit.
My pants were always way too big and my jackets were always too small. You know, it was
Story
like
of my life.
and you know, so anyway, so so somebody said, I said, this doesn't fit, you know. And the guy said, well, you got it on, don't you?
It zips up, doesn't it?
You got it on, don't you? It fits. You know, so in a way, you know, translating that to humanity, you know, we're issued this body when we were born, when we were
We
conceived.
designed
We
it.
didn't pick our face,
Yeah,
our creed,
we
our...
were issued this body.
This is
We
cool.
have it.
We'll try this one out for a while.
And you know, there's no saying, well, it's too big or too small. We just,
One size fits all. One size fits all.
You got it wrong. I was supposed to have blonde hair.
it's all just
point is that it
what we do with what we got, how we take care of it, and how do we. And the one answer, I mean, it's to simplify. I'm just into simplification. There's only two. We only have two choices:
That's it.
life.
Or death.
It's Shakespeare said it the easiest way: to be.
Or not to be.
And we, you know, so I entrained when I was in the theater world and, you know, studying Shakespeare. And when I heard that, I immediately got it. This is the essential question. Really is. Hey, so the rest of it is not judgment, but discernment.
Sure.
The ability to discern what is life affirming, what is not, what is destructive, what is towards life building or life destruction.
Yeah, sure.
That's the only two. That's the only choices we have.
One leads to the
So all we have to do, everything that we learn, is to recognize, you know, what mushroom is going to poison you. I mean, those are the things you
And
learn.
which one's going to wake you up?
And which ones are going to enhance anything else? The
Right.
And
spaghetti
towards-
sauce.
Towards everything
Yes.
else. Everything else. There is nothing that you can't divide that up to
Absolutely. So
life
life-affirming
affirming
or
or
life
destructive.
It either gives you or
Keep
takes it.
simplifying
Whichever one
everything
you
that we
feed.
do. Huh?
Which one you feel?
Yeah. Of course, it creates